Hey guys, Chris Nash here, and
Kris Jones.
this is Ask Me Anything number 98. And today we're actually standing, it's appropriate. We want to talk to you about confidence. I think this is something that obviously is relevant to just about, well, it's literally relevant to anybody on the planet. And so I wanted to open up with a little story. When I was younger, and maybe this is kind of just based on the struggles I grew up with, I walked around when I was about 7 or 8 years old and kind of walked around with my head down. And my mom had a friend visiting out from Illinois where we used to live. I lived in New York at this point. And she comes over to me and she sees I'm kind of walking around with my head down. And she picks up my chin and she goes, when you're walking around, why are you not holding yourself up and looking out and demonstrating confidence? She said, there's no reason to do that. And I hadn't really thought about it. I hadn't thought about my posture, and I hadn't thought about my confidence at that point. And I'm young at this point, but I distinctly remember that moment and that day. And since then, it changed my whole being in terms of my approach to things and my confidence level. And I don't really think I've ever been the same from that moment. And part of it was just feeling like I had the permission to go out there and express myself in that way. So that's really partly what today's AMA is about. It's talking about this idea of confidence. It's something, as I think you're well aware, neither of us lack. And we say that on one level as a bit of a joke.
Sure.
But it's also, I think, the thing that's powered us through. It's the belief that I think we can do whatever we put our minds to.
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to talk about some of the ways in which both of us either have gained confidence or the ways I think the people that are watching this can do the same thing and actually take control of their own self-confidence.
I think the first thing is to identify that there's at least two ways of growing your confidence. One is through physiology, the other one is through psychology.
For sure.
Those of you that know me or ever have seen me walk into a room, or if I'm standing talking here, you'll see me do this a lot. You can't probably see my feet right now, but I'm constantly trying to keep my energy level. You go like this. I'm constantly trying to keep my energy level high. Why? Because physiology impacts psychology and confidence almost more than anything. You ever sit in a chair, and we all do. I mean, geez, we're in the computer business, right?
Sure.
So you sit in a chair and you realize 45 minutes in that you're slumped over. You're in a very low physical state. And so I usually have a trampoline around, or I just recently had a vibration machine, whatever I can to keep my energy level up. So in short, Tony Robbins refers to it as your state.
Your state, yeah, absolutely.
Right? But do you agree? It's like when you're performing at the top level, right? Whether it be athletics or whether it be in a business meeting, chances are your body is juiced with adrenaline. You know, you're not even thinking about being confident.
Right. It's coming out naturally.
Yeah. That state of flow is something that anyone who's watching, you need to become more in tune with your physiology. To never go into an important business meeting, never walk into a room where something important is going to happen without you feeling rock solid, not only mentally, but physiologically. You need to have your energy level high. You need to be on guard and ready.
People feel that. And it almost 80% of it is actually the way that you deliver the information. Obviously, listen, you have to know your content. That goes without saying. And actually, preparation has a lot to do with self-confidence in general. So you have to be prepared, get the knowledge.
Yeah.
And actually, there's some basic things. If you guys look up some of these lists online, just about speaking slowly, having the right posture, there's some basic things to do. But I think one of the important things to realize is you can take control of this. And I think most people don't make an active... They don't make this an active process. And you actually can take control, make it a habit to go out there and present yourself in a way. There are some basic, like obviously groom yourself, dress well, and then you'll feel better about what you're doing to start. And even the entrepreneur, you know, they have their T-shirt and they put on the blazer to kind of change that sometimes. And even that little step makes a difference.
You know, in the back of my mind, I'm like replaying the story you shared. And two things. Number one, confidence grows with momentum. So you need to get a little bit of a spark.
Take a baby step.
Yeah, but once you get that spark going and you start to demonstrate that, whoa, wait, I could do this, or if someone else did it, I could do it as well.
Right.
There's some of these mental tricks that I've been playing with myself for years. I think I've shared on a previous AMA. My first year of law school, didn't know anybody. And I went in and I saw that you could run for president of your class. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I'm running for president of my class, but in order to win that, I'm going to have to meet a lot of people. And so I would literally drive over to the law school, and I would repeat in my head, you know, you will succeed, you will persevere, you will meet more people today and make a more positive impact. And so I would play that, and eventually people were responsive, and eventually I won that seat. But the thing is, so I think a spark is one part of it. The other thing is, I'll share a quick story, is that, you know, I was a young kid, and I have this on the kbjcapital.com website, where my mom said to me, I was laying in bed faking sick one day, and my mom is like, get out of bed. I'm like, I'm sick, I'm not going to school. She said, get your ass out of bed and make your mother proud.
Oh, nice.
The point is that I think often we put so much pressure on ourselves. We compare ourselves to perfection. You know, confidence needs to come from this like advanced skill set. And so we have to wait to be confident.
Basics, yeah.
Sometimes I think one of my hacks for being confident at a young age was simply that a lot of the decisions I made that appeared to other people of having a ton of confidence, dude, I was just trying to make my mom proud.
Right.
And so sometimes when you take the pressure off yourself and you start living your life so that others around you that you love most, you know, are happy.
Right.
You know, then I think, you know, that's a bit of a secret to how to build your confidence. Stop focusing on yourself.
I think
if you're overweight, if you feel like your health and wellness, you're not exercising, you put so much darn pressure. Well, don't exercise or lose the weight for yourself.
Right.
You know, find a different reason. You know, create a why that doesn't have to do with you, that has to do with the impact that you could have on other people.
That's a really great point. I was going to say that, take an example of like either volunteering or even just thinking about being grateful. When you're feeling that emotion, you actually can't be self-conscious. And I think that's a part of it. I want to tell one other story that I think a lot of people can relate to if they have kind of a demon or something that holds them back. I used to stutter when I was younger, and I think it had everything to do with what I'm talking about, of just kind of feeling like I wasn't allowed to express myself or be confident when I was little. And I'm sure there's a bunch of psychological stuff that got me to that point. But once I made that little shift and started to like just feel better about the person that I was, that went away a little bit, and I stuttered a little less. And I noticed that pattern. I was like, wow, when my confidence is up, I don't actually stutter. And I haven't really told that story or talked a lot about that, and I'm sure half the people don't even really realize that I had that in my past. But I was like, holy cow, I can actually make progress here. And I just built on that slowly, and eventually, and now, I mean, we're doing these kind of AMAs, and I've spoken in front of a number of different audiences.
Sure.
I used to be terrified of going up in front of groups and talking, and now I actually look forward to it.
Yeah.
So that little transition, it's, I think, within all of us to go out there and believe that you can control it, believe you can change, and then literally believe you can build on it. I think those are important steps. And, you know, there's a bunch of things that, like we talked about, just go and look up some of the basics there, you know, have gratitude and things like that. Because when you're feeling those things, or when you're speaking slowly, when you're speaking with authority, it becomes habit. And then you actually start to really get behind that. And then the whole attitude changes. And it's all about attitude.
You know, I have 2 videos left in this series. And I don't want to jump into video 100 yet, but one thing that I hope you guys, you now have 96 videos that you could go back to, and there's a similar theme to all these videos, and that theme is personal accountability. You know, one thing about being confident is that you believe in your potential, you believe in your ability to do or get or accomplish anything that you want. So I think when we're talking about confidence, it's not this abstract thing. It's really if anybody who's watching this is depressed or feeling down or feeling like they don't amount to much or they feel like they're not good enough, honestly, I think that we all have a responsibility to realize that that is a choice. The choice of being confident. Now, it's not that easy. You know, just like anything, any lesson, any story, whatever that we've shared in this series, it's not easy. But, you know, if you make an effort to take action right now and think about it in terms of baby steps and think about how you could start demonstrating results. And one thing that it comes into my head all the time in almost every meeting I'm ever in, it's this idea of applying things consistently over time. Consistently over time. How do you want to become more successful? You do it consistently over time. It doesn't happen. If I meet with another person who wants to become, fill in the blank, a millionaire, or wants to lose 50 pounds, or and they don't have the ability to persevere until they execute and make that happen.
Take one step.
Yeah, they'll never see it. They'll never achieve it. They'll always want it. So the key is, it's great to have crazy, uncomfortable goals, but you have to hold yourself accountable to how to get there. And it happens in steps, and it happens consistently over time. So by taking some of these tips and incorporating them into one's life, and then not just doing it once and saying, oh, you know, not getting the results I want, but instead making it part of who you are.
And I think believing that you can actually change those things. You know, I mean, I literally went from a shy child who was uncomfortable speaking to anybody to the person in front of you. And I'm not saying I'm 100% of the way there, but it totally changed. But I made I took steps, and it was so nice that somebody came and gave me literally a lift and said, hey, like, you can do this. And sometimes that's all it takes.
Yep. It's I think that professional development is a lifelong work in progress. I remember when I was in grad school at Villanova, there was this young woman who was so talented. She was so smart. And I remember she got really down on herself. And we were out at one of I think it was called Brownies, one of the bars there. And she was like really opening up to me. And I'm just listening to her, and I'm like, and I just said, I'm like, you know what? In life, there's no such thing about perfection. All you could do is become better. And I'm like, if your goal is perfection, you're going to be constantly disappointed.
Sure.
But if your goal is to just get better, to do your best, you know, be the best version of yourself, the game starts to change. See, sometimes confidence, a lack of confidence, comes from a belief that they're nowhere close to where they want to be.
Sure.
Well, that's not what they should be focused on. What they should be focused on is how could they get closer to wherever it is. They should really question where they want to go, but ultimately, if they're getting closer, that should be the measure. The celebration should come from the progress, not from the lack of having whatever it is that they want. Life, you know, one of the realities, and you could identify with this having as much success as you've had, is that sometimes the end result is anticlimactic. I mean, when you sold your company and you had a big transaction that came, you know, for me, I mean, listen, let's not seem like we're full of ourselves, but the reality is that working up to that end result, which was a significant result, is the juice.
It was a good day, though, I won't lie.
Well,
no, I mean more emotionally than anything, and all the preparation that went into it to have that be the end result. And I think my partners felt the same way. Yeah.
So life's a journey, not a destination.
So let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
See you guys next episode.
Peace.